Hey everyone, welcome to your online cafe. Today it's one of those really sultry Sunday evenings here, and I so wish it rains. We can definitely use rain. I hope weather is nice and fine wherever you are joining me from, but we can definitely use some rain here. So anyway, in the mental health series, this time we're going to talk about narcissistic personality disorder, also known as NPD. Have you ever come across somebody in your life who has an inflated sense of who they are? He talks about himself all the time. Please don't mind my gender. It's not a gender bias that I'm using. It could be he or she. I have to use something, so I'm just using a he. So please take it for what it is. Anyway, so have you ever come across somebody in your life who has a kind of inflated sense of who they are? They talk about themselves all the time. It almost feels like they are in love with themselves. They demean other people, they insult and humiliate other people's effort, and they're extremely negative about self criticism. More often than not, we try and disengage ourselves, when we come across such people, because we feel that it could be one of those behavioral patterns that they have. But for all we know, they could actually be suffering from NPD, and they may, need our help to deal with that condition. So that's why we have this topic with us today, and Dr. Vimal will be with us shortly because it actually affects every aspect of relationship. It could be your spouse, it could be a child, it could be a sibling, it could be your mom, your dad, your boss, your teacher. It could just be anybody, and it creates havoc in every aspect of a relationship. Dr. Vimal will be with us shortly, and we will discuss some of the causes, symptoms, effects, how we can deal with them, how they can deal with it themselves, and so forth. I will request this to all of you that please try and share this broadcast with your friends and family, because one of the reasons I'm doing this mental health series is to create awareness as far as the mental health goes, because a lot of times it goes undiagnosed. Please and feel free. Your questions and comments are always welcome. I will get to them at the end of my questions. So let's bring in Dr. Vimal with us, and let's move on. Let's get on with the show. Hi,
Hi,
Dr. Vimal.
Sonal.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
It's
It's nice
becoming
to be
so,
back.
yes, always. And it's becoming so easy now because we have a certain repo and we have built a certain pattern. So this Sunday, your online cafe, it's just becoming so easy and casual and normal. And at the same time, I think there are great topics that we have been able to cover, and your insights have just been phenomenal. I have gotten so many messages from friends saying that they literally have started taking notes because there is so much content to the conversation that we have. So always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. That's very encouraging. And yes, I totally ditto your Sunday coffee chat because this is something I look forward to because it's an informal conversation, and the endeavor is to bring content as information to the people who view this, especially those who view it regularly. So they can help themselves, or it could be of help to anybody that they know who's looking for it.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of it in India somehow also I feel that it goes under the cover.
Hmm.
So I'm glad that we have had, thanks to social media, we have this platform that it has enabled us to actually talk about these issues. So,
Yes,
so we get on. Should we get on with our questions?
sure.
So, as always, let's start with the basic. Hi, Vaishali. Hi, Sandeep. Good to see you guys here. Feel free to ask questions. Doctor, how do you know what is narcissism, and what are some of the symptoms of a narcissistic personality disorder? How do you know that people around you are suffering from that?
I'd like to begin with a story, maybe this time. Um, the Romans and ancient Greek mythology there was a myth about a man named Narcissist who
Yeah.
was obsessed with self. The story tells about a handsome man named Narcissist who goes around the world looking for love. After rejecting a female named Echo, he sees his reflection in a river and falls in love with himself. Unable to tear himself away, he drowns in the river. A flower grows and blossoms in the spot where he drowned, and they name the flower the narcissist.
Okay.
I think that this is such an interesting way of introducing the subject because, this is a term which has come up in the recent times and we use it rather loosely, saying that, we say narcissist to a person who's selfish or who may be just self-centered or maybe self-focused. But narcissism has a lot more to it. It's more weighty. And the Greek mythology and the Romans in this story tale have captured the essence. The definition of a narcissist is basically someone who's elevated, who has a sense of elevation, and is sometimes or most times detrimental. There is the relationship is like I, me, myself, and only me. Before I give you the clinic or the psychological definition of a narcissist, I would like to say that narcissists are not evil or bad people. They are also victims, and they learn with their experience and believe that the power is the cure to dealing with feeling like a victim, and that is why the way that's why they are the way they are, because the belief is so deep core that it becomes second skin. We must remember that our endeavor is to bring information. Sonal and I try hard to be as informative as possible because this is a general platform. And like I always say, specific cases and specific experiences need to be dealt with specifically. We are all works in progress. So this talk is to understand narcissism and narcissist, and not intended to judge or talk down about either one. Coming to what is narcissism in the psychological definition. Narcissism is characterized by a grandiose sense of self-importance, like the story tale also tells. They think that they are better looking than others. There is overall a lack of empathy for others, a need for excessive admiration, and the belief that one is unique and deserves special treatment all the time. If you encounter someone who consistently exhibits these behaviors, you may be dealing with a highly narcissistic individual. Um, does the narcissist know that he is a narcissist? Outrightly, I'd say no. But the person who's dealing with this narcissist definitely knows that they are a narcissist, because it would be we'd come to how the relationship is, but the person who's dealing with a narcissist or has a narcissist around them would definitely know that there is something missing. There are four forms of narcissists. Research has established four forms that have emerged. Uh, uh, it's basically to further characterize narcissism. The first is grandiose. The second is vulnerable narcissist, and the third is narcissistic personality disorder, and the fourth is a very highly clinical condition. Um, we'll not go into that. Grandiose means people who pursue power and extroversion, largely dominant and very highly attention seeking. The vulnerable narcissist is the kind who's quiet and reserved and have a dark side which shows up in the long term. Narcissistic personality disorder is a more extreme form of the two that I have mentioned. there is a pathological clinical intervention that is required for that, and it only affects 1 to 2% people, and it's largely men. This is what research has established. So that is why we are not going to be talking about the narcissistic personality disorder per se, neither the pathological narcissist, because the that requires clinical intervention. We are going to be largely focused on the grandiose and the vulnerable narcissist, because that is the most likely or likely to be around. So, to sum it up, anything that challenges their rosy view of themselves, of a narcissist, by themselves I mean narcissists, can rile them up, and they can take unethical, risky decisions, throw anger tantrums, seek attention, anything to do with power, anything that they can get power over you would work for them, and they can be unfaithful as well.
Uh, then how do you distinguish between maybe a selfish person or a very confident person to a narcissistic person? Because sometimes, a person could just be very confident or very selfish. But how do you distinguish them?
Yeah, and like I mentioned, that is also a trait of narcissism. Um, Let me answer confidence first. Narcissism does not necessarily represent a surplus of self-esteem or a surplus of insecurity. In fact, more accurately, it encompasses a hunger for appreciation or admiration. So, we all like praise. We all like people to say, "What a fantastic job." We all have the desire to get attention and we do things to maybe seek attention, but here the desire is to be the center of attention, which is different from seeking or wanting attention, um, and an expectation of special treatment reflecting perceived higher status. Like I said, a narcissist believes that they're better than all the other people. So, the body language and the words used, the vocabulary is all about how important they are and how special they are, and thereby they are entitled to get the better of the situation and the other person. And that could be anything. The confidence comes from a platform of feeling good about oneself. Um, and whereas narcissism has the hunger for attention stemming from a platform of deprivation, manifesting in entitlement. So I guess there is a snatchy aspect to narcissism, whereas confidence comes with a sense of calm because you know that you know it. But you don't need to flaunt it. You don't need to project it. That is confidence. And narcissism is because if I don't prove myself to be the best, or if I don't use my entitlement to get away with the special treatment, then I am a nobody. That is the basic difference. So I would say that there is a dependency for appreciation and attention, and like I said, we all like attention and appreciation, but if we don't get it, it's disappointing for a while, and then we get over it. Whereas a narcissist may also hold you accountable for not getting it, because that's a need, and if you don't provide it, so it's almost like you need to provide it. You're supposed to provide it, and if you don't provide it, then you could be held accountable for not providing it. Coming on to selfishness, self to some extent we all serve self first, but this is a long-term self-centered approach to everything and anything. um, they may and one of the other differences with selfishness is also that they project upon the partner that it is the partner who's the most important one. For example, um, in a relationship, a narcissist may tell the partner, "You are the most important person in my life, and without you, I am nothing. But does that person feel important? Is the behavior from the narcissist to that person making them feel important? No, because that person may actually end up feeling like absolutely worthless, because it's the narcissist who will project that they're important, but they will make the decisions and they will call the shots. So, is that does that highlight selfishness to some extent? I guess.
I guess what that highlights is also manipulation with selfishness. High degree of manipulation there, I guess, because you pointed out a very significant point that verbally they may say something to make the other person feel like they mean everything to them, but how the other person feels around them is more important, right? So that's such an important aspect of a relationship, any relationship for that matter.
Yes, yes. And because in seeing themselves as superior, a, a narcissist naturally views everyone else as inferior. I mean, it comes to them naturally to view the world and other people as inferior, and they may be very intolerant to any kind of disagreement or questioning.
So
That
in yeah,
go ahead, Sana.
no, please go ahead. Please finish your thoughts.
So I was just saying that they may be very they would be rather intolerant of a disagreement or questioning, because the belief is that they are the best, they are perfect. So how can you improve upon perfection?
So then in that actually I have two questions based on what you just said. Do they ever actually fall in love because they are so in love with themselves? Do they actually ever fall in love?
Do you think there's room to fall in love?
Sorry.
Do you think there's any room to fall in love?
Yeah, I was just wondering about that myself. That if they think that they are the best, and so where is the room? So do they? So they don't fall in love at all?
Actually, it's a very interesting question, and I'm so glad you're asking this, because someone who's been around a narcissist, like supposing you have a parent who's a narcissist, or you have a husband who's a narcissist, or you have a wife who's a narcissist, or a sibling who's a narcissist, maybe a friend who's a narcissist. Um, Narcissists are also very charming, and they show a lot of passion. So usually on the onset, now I'm talking about a romantic relationship. On the onset of a romantic relationship, they will exhibit a lot of passion and charm, but it will only be that would only show up in the early stages of dating.
Acha.
But for most narcissists, relationships are transactional. So most of the times, they would choose a partner who would be useful for them in whatever in whatever they way they want. Sorry. Um, they provide positive attention and sexual satisfaction to bolster a narcissist's ego and self-esteem. Uh, they could provide money. They could be a source of socialization, or the partner could be a step to the ladder of success. um, the objective could be uncommitted pleasure. um, could be anything, like, so there needs to be a purpose. There would always be a purpose in the relationship a narcissist chooses, because that's how the mind works, that's how they are wired. And they can't, and they know no different, so they can't be any different. um, so the objective of a narcissistic relationship from the point of view of a narcissist is uncommitted pleasure or benefit without commitment. And if this fizzles away, then they lose interest in the relationship. um, as they lose interest in the relationship as the intimacy increases, or they feel that they have conquered the challenge of securing a relationship. So it could be either way. Either they find a way to pin you, like they keep you safe in their life because they will hold something above you, Like maybe if, for example, a good example, because this is something that happens so very often, a wife has an ex-boyfriend before they get married, and at some point of overwhelming honesty, she confesses to him that, I had this relationship, there's nothing now, but I want you to know. Now, this, if the husband is a narcissist, that information will be used over them for the rest of their life, because that would be used to conquer, um, the challenge of securing that relationship and keeping it in place. Because remember, a narcissist theme of thinking is power.
I see.
Does that answer the question, Sona?
Yes, yes. So I guess power at any cost, validation at any cost, power at any cost. That's how they define themselves. That's how they feel validated as people, it feels like.
Absolutely. And you remember in one of the talks I had mentioned that every relationship comes with a currency. So for a narcissist, the currency is power, and the power will happen no matter what.
Okay. Now, if so, the people around the narcissistic person, once they establish that that person is narcissistic, what what should how should they behave to deal with that aspect of narcissism? You know, in any relationship, whether it's a spouse or a sibling or anybody for that matter. Once you know that the other person is a narcissistic, how do you deal with them? It's How do
Yeah,
you
I
deal with
think
them? Actually, I'll just modify my question a little bit, Vimal. How do you deal with them without you getting manipulated by them, and without getting manipulated by, uh, their selfishness or their power, basically?
so. First of all, if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you're already manipulated.
Okay.
Also, like, so supposing you have a narcissist parent, and as a child you look up to them, to give you the love, to give you the wisdom, to give you the nurture, to give you the support. It's not going to happen. So I would actually like to divide this question into parts, because it's a very there are a lot of aspects to the question you asked. One is that how is the person impacted, because the role would matter. Because if it's a marriage, it would be different. If it's a partner, it would be different. If it's a sibling, the siblings have more options to deal with it. If you're a child, then you have no options but to live with the parent.
Absolutely.
So the role would matter, and how, what they can do to come out of it, right, or manage. That's what you asked.
So actually, like you said, we can actually divide this question into two. One is, you're already married, then you don't have a choice. Secondly, if it's a parent-child relationship, then also there is no choice. The other aspects, there could be, the other aspect is whether it's a sibling, then you have a choice, right? It's not like the siblings don't live together for their entire life together. So I guess you could have two different answers. One where you don't have a choice and you have to live with the person, whether it's your spouse or somebody you're dealing with on a daily basis. And then the other aspect is when you actually have a choice. I sorry, the for some time we just went off. So
Yeah, that's okay. I heard you. I could hear you. um, okay, so let's should we talk first about how does it impact the person who's in the relationship with the narcissist, maybe?
yes, yeah, that's the more important aspect, I guess. Yes.
Yeah. So the person who's in the relationship with a narcissist is like, imagine looking into the mirror and you see nothing looking back at you. It's like an empty relationship which usually culminates in a burnout, because you are expect there are expectations of you, but you cannot expect um, to get your needs met. Physical, maybe, but emotional, mental, no. Um, the dysfunction typically causes friction in a relationship, um, because there is a pathological lack of empathy in a relationship. So if there is a lack of empathy, it's going to be void of sensitivity, it's going to be void of understanding, it's going to be void of any kind of care or concern. And it may also manifest as antagonism, fueled by grandiosity and attention seeking. So, typically, if you're getting ready to go out for a party and you say, "How am I looking?" and the narcissist would typically turn around and say, "Tell me how my shirt is. Um, See how good I'm looking. See how this is where I bought it from. This is my new shirt. These are my new shoes. Tell me how I'm looking. Tell me how I'm smelling." So it's going, every conversation you have, which you may be expecting something, attention upon you, is going to be turned around into attention. It's going to be about them. It will not be about you. The only times it may be about you is when there is an expectation of you. So largely that is one of the major ways in which the person is impacted. And a narcissist's desire to elicit admiration and praise, especially from potential romantic partners, often makes them charming and charismatic, and it ignites a romance, but it doesn't keep it in place because it's done with a purpose. So I'd like to differentiate here between a romantic partner. So this is how it will play out in romance, but with a parent-child relationship, the child will never be good enough. No matter what the child does, the child is never going to be good enough. So children who are raised by narcissists have very low self-esteem. They think that they're inadequate because most of the attention is given to when they achieve something or when they acquire something, also when they look good, because there is a lot of vanity in a narcissist. So, and everything about the child's achievements is because that then, they can wear a badge about being a good parent. So it's not really about the child. It's again about the parent themselves. Um, so the you know the hunger for admiration and praise is like a vacuum sucking it off you and off anybody else who's around them. There have been a lot of research, people can read up on Google about research which has been done about bosses who are narcissists, and how the team who's working under that, the narcissist boss, completely changes them into the way they see themselves, because it leaves them feeling super inconfident, completely inadequate, and they feel that they never get anything right. Also, it causes a lot of stress to kind of feel inadequate all the time. Um, so the inherent deficit of empathy may prevent them from understanding a partner's inner world and establishing fulfilling long-term relationship. So, like I said, the romanticism is fueled very quickly because of the charm and charisma, but it also comes crash landing because there is no ability to get a sense of what the partner needs, um, for continued relationship, and then it turns into about the power being held over the other person. So, and that cannot feel pretty. That pretty much feels very um, very suffocating, perhaps would be the right word to use here. It's nearly impossible for people with narcissistic personality to truly fall in love and build a trusting, equal partnership. the partnership will always be imbalanced, whether it's child parent, whether it's siblings, whether it's boss and employee, whether it's definitely not husband wife, boyfriend girlfriend as well. Such an individual may also seek
How
to
about
establish
is it
strict
possible the
rules.
parents? Sorry, go ahead.
Could you repeat that? Were you asking
No, I was
something,
just
Sonu?
asking, is it, yeah, I was asking that is it possible that the parents are not, but the child is the, I'm going to come to the causes later after this, but is that a possibility that the child
Yes, it's a
is one and
possibility.
the parent, yeah,
It is
and
a
how,
possibility.
and okay, and how does that work out in terms of real life?
The child would be very difficult for the parent to manage, extremely difficult for the, because they think that they're perfect. They may say that there are a lot of things which are wrong with them, but it would only be to again get attention, so that the parent keeps it's like the parent's job to fix all the imperfections I feel about myself, but I am perfect where I am. So it's like a wall. Like, you can't really break that wall and get there. So it's, and also such children will not go for therapy.
Because they probably
So
think that there's nothing wrong with them.
yes, because also because they think that it's the parents' responsibility to fix them, not fix them, but fix their problems.
Okay. Now, what are the causes of narcissism? Like, is it an acquired behavior, or is it genetic, or is it situational? What are some of the causes of such a behavior?
Yeah, largely it's divided into two causes. It's not there is still a lot of research happening for around narcissism, but one, it's there is a genetic disposition to it. There is a gene, they say, that makes it, because they, and the reason they believe this is because there are children who are born to perfectly nurturing parents who are narcissists. So so if the parent is a narcissist and the child has issues, we can blame it on the narcissism of the parent. But if the child is narcissistic and the parents are nurturing, then there's no way to equate the balance backwards. And so that is why they have established now that there is a gene contributing to it. The other could also be childhood vulnerability. Like, for example, when a child loses one or both of the parents when the child is really young, like 1 or 2 or maybe 3. And so the child learns, depending on who they're raised by, and depending on environmental factors, religion factors, cultural factors, uh, economy as well, that they may feel that the only way to survive is through power, and that becomes a belief, and it becomes such a deep core belief that it becomes second skin.
Okay. So there are different aspects to it. It could be genetic, it could be situational, depending on the situation, circumstances that the person is being born into, and so forth.
Yeah, because
Okay.
the whole projection of narcissism upon the other is about power. And why like, let's look at it in very, we look at it at the grassroots root level. Who wants to be in control? A person who feels constantly out of control. So a person who constantly feels helpless or is in fear would want to control other people, right? If you feel you're okay, then you also display that. So, like I said, a narcissist is also at the very deep core of himself or herself is a victim of fear. But they don't realize that. They don't know that. They're not aware of it. Because there's no self awareness.
And and how do you address that then? How do you address that? That need for power, which is coming from some insecurity that they have. Because like you said, they think that they are perfect. So even if you establish that a person is suffering from narcissism, uh, where is the hope? How do you address it as a loved one who's around them?
Yeah, I'll connect this to the previous question you asked me, as people who are in who don't have an exit from with a narcissist person. How do they manage it? So I'll connect both the questions. Just one thing, a person who's a narcissist is not suffering in any way.
Okay,
Yeah, there's no suffering. The person who's living with a narcissist is certainly suffering.
I see. Because they
Because
probably.
narcissist doesn't have feel regret or remorse.
Okay. So
Sorry,
you
did
don't.
I did
No, no,
I
no.
overtalk you because I thought you were asking something?
No, no, no. Please go ahead. Go ahead. Today I'm feeling a little bit of lag in the conversation. Right? Do you also feel that?
Yes, yes, I do, because and I've been constantly checking the internet connection, but it's showing full strength.
Yeah,
So
even it's actually showing full strength. So I was wondering.
yeah.
But please go ahead. Please go ahead, Vimal.
So to answer your question, um, so to complete what I was saying, that the this entire thing about attention seeking, grandiosity, charisma, charming, getting their way, being manipulative, all of it, this is unconscious. And a narcissist has really, really, really worked hard to build up this belief of power and protection, which is connected. The belief comes up because they feel that the way to protect themselves is through the power they hold over others. And no matter what, they are not going to let go of that, because there is in their own way suffering in the earlier years for this to have become a belief, and they don't want to go back to that place ever again. And that is why this strong holding on to that power at any cost happens. And and also one, so after this talk is over and you figure out that you are living with a narcissist, or you figured out your parent, or you figured out your child, or you figured out your partner, please do not go and tell them you figured them out. They do not want to hear what you have figured out. So this may make sense to you, but this is not going to make sense to them. So I need this to I want everybody to really know this, because a lot of the times you get a thorough understanding or an umbrella understanding of something, and you say, oh, that's hit home and I figured you out. No, you don't do that.
Correct.
Are
So
you saying something, Sonal?
yeah. So once you figure it out, Vimal, again back to the same question: how do you deal with them? How do you
Yeah,
make a relationship work?
I was just going to answer that. All right. Yeah. So see, if primarily I wanted to highlight that because I believe that if you can manage, like if we can manage ourselves, then you can manage the relationship, because we take ourselves to the relationship the way we are. So if you are equipped with certain information, or something, then you show up with that amount of information, which makes you um, which obviously endows you with the responsibility, but it also puts you in a better place, because then you are not helpless and you're not confused. And um, but if you are not equipped and you show up in a relationship, you probably feel very lost, helpless, confused, and maybe even low and diffused with time, because you don't know what's happening. So that was my point of highlighting it. Um, Now, to answer the question about if you choose to remain in a relationship, or you don't have exit from a relationship with a narcissist, these are the following things that you may do, which is to create a support group of friends who will provide you with emotional, mental, physical comfort and hear you out, give you the attention you want, give you the advice you want. You can also a group where you can kind of share things about your life. That's one thing. Number two is get into therapy with a therapist who knows about narcissism, because you will need that specific, peculiar support about your relationship, which cannot be general. It needs to be specific. And for that, you need to go into therapy with a therapist who knows narcissism, not with any therapist. Um, Engage in self-care. So do things, form up some rituals or routines that take care of you, like going for a walk, going to the parlor, going to the movies, going out with a coffee with friends, whatever you like to do, it's up to you. Watching a movie every once a week or every 2 days. Like you need to sort out your own pleasure giving activity and engage in it. Find a purpose that is meaningful and engages you. Um, uh, Now, the purpose is different from engaging in self care, because the purpose needs to be more meaningful and it also needs to be more fulfilling, at the emotional level, also at the mental level. So, this means something like work, some hobby that you really, really want to do, like dancing, painting, creating something, gardening, or it could be an outreach to the community of some sort. So that is what I mean by purpose. Again, you will have to find your own anchor, but you need to find it. Um, Next is manage your expectations. Otherwise, you're likely to experience a constant heartache, because from the person you expect it, you expect the emotional fulfillment, you're not going to get it. And the more you battle to get it and the more disappointment you collect, you will be after a while in constant heartache, and that's not where you want to end up. So you need to learn to manage your expectations. Learn about how to recalibrate boundaries as required through your journey, like through your journey of the relationship with the concerned person. So, for example, your boundaries for maybe going out, for socializing, for spending time watching TV with your partner needs to change. There are some weeks or days that you could be more involved in each other's lives. There could be other days when, if you need to take care of your vacuum that you're feeling, then you need to distance. So you will need to recalibrate the boundaries for that week. Um, so these are some of the things that you can do to take care of yourself and still be in the relationship.
So it looks like the only way out is to build your own strength, because I think self care, self alignment, self strength, and to have your own emotional anchor so that you can deal with that situation in a better way. Is it possible, Dr. Vimal, that maybe a person was a narcissist, but over a period of time, uh, that trait actually diminishes or goes away? Like, can a narcissistic person not remain narcissistic throughout life? Is that a possibility, or it just stays?
Well, it's like asking, can a banana become an orange? I don't think that's possible. Um, it can. So, what can happen is through intensive therapy and different types of interventions, with primarily the person needs to be consented towards change. Because, see, one of the most challenging things that happen with a narcissist is that they don't want to change themselves because they think that they're perfect. So unless that belief breaks, there is no way we can move forward. But if that breaks, let's say there is a natural, some sort of crisis or a challenge, like a fatal accident, fatal in the sense that it impairs them physically or mentally, or they have a fracture or some sort, and they're incapacitated in some form or the other. In that way, an intervention can happen. But it may or may not be a sustained change. Because remember, then the manipulation can kick in, and till the time they need you, they can be nice to you. But after that, it may still be the same empty nest relationship all over again. So it will be individualistic, but if there have also been, I don't want to make it sound super hopeless because it is not. It is very far fetched, but there is still hope, because if the person agrees and is truly wanting to change, yes, there is therapy available for that, and yes, that change is possible.
Okay. So I guess it all depends on their consent, because
Yes,
they have to be open to it, and it almost looks like a catch-22, because they feel they're perfect, so they may not open up. But at the same time, if they don't open up, the therapy cannot proceed. So it's kind
absolutely.
of,
And they may not be truthful to the therapist. They may come for therapy to please the partner and say, "उन्होंने भेजा तो मैं आ गया."
yeah, that's true.
There are three people who don't come for therapy ever: sociopaths, psychopaths, and narcissists.
Okay, sociopaths, psychopaths, and narcissists. Wow, there are so many aspects to mental health that I think if we continue this series, we can just go on forever and still not be able to cover every aspect of it. It just
Yes,
the more I do these shows, the more I realize, how many layers, mental health. There are so many layers to mental health actually, because I think mind is the most complex of all creation anyway. So
absolutely. And a lot of it, because see, narcissism is something that has come up recently, like, as being recognized as a problem. In the older times, we have had grandparents who may have been narcissists, we don't even know,
I don't even know.
because we just perceive them as ये तो ऐसे ही है, ये इनका तो गुस्सा जरा तेज है ना, तो तुम हाँ कर दो, तुम जी हजूरी कर देना. So people around also have that belief that just manage the person and buy peace.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we don't really come to know that there is a problem. But if you do come to know, then please do at least explore the options available. You do not need to suffer in silence.
Right. One quick question that I actually wanted to ask earlier, and then we went on to discussing a few other things. You mentioned that there are two kinds. Well, there are four, but what we were discussing today is one grandiose, and the other was the vulnerable kind, right?
Yes.
We just elaborate a little bit on the vulnerable aspect of it. Grandiose, I think we spoke enough about. What does the vulnerable aspect of a narcissist mean?
The vulnerable type is not type. It is a form. It is not a type, because the narcissist is a narcissist. There are no types to it. The form of the vulnerable narcissist is largely like, the quiet, silent, aloof, isolated person. So the only thing which is missing in that is the attention seeking. The attention seeking is through being aloof and quiet and withdrawn, and but they still do need that attention, and they still hold the power. So everything else is, just like the grandiose, only the outer behavior is a little bit different.
I
And
see.
I think I'm not sure, but that could also have to do with introversion and extroversion streaks of a personality.
Okay. I think I've come to the. I'll quickly go over. I think we're at the end of my questions. If there are anything that I have not covered, Dr. Vimal, that you would like to highlight, and in the meantime, if the viewers, if you have any questions, please feel free. Now would be the time. So go ahead, Vimal, if there is anything that you would like to tell to the audience, and then I can wrap up the show.
Um, well, I only want to say that, please do reach out. Please do reach out, because the whole purpose of doing this with Sonal is, for people to know the place they are in, as an individual, as and also in a relationship, because I have said previously that the quality of your relationship determines the quality of our lives. And it's important for you to know where you are and where you want to be. So, if you have identified certain traits or certain things that you've been going through because you are around a narcissist, please do reach out, because it may have affected you in ways that you don't even know that it has affected you.
I don't see any questions from the audience. So one quick wrap up that I would like to say to all of you is, even Dr. Vimal actually said earlier, that these are the general symptoms, causes, effects in a very generic situation. Every situation could be very unique, so you cannot you cannot take solutions out of this and try and place it wherever it fits. I think the wiser thing would be to reach to a specialist or to a therapist, depending on your specific situation. The good aspect of these conversations is that you are aware now, right? The next steps can be different for different people, but this is more for general awareness as to know, what some of the causes and the symptoms could be. In no way we can actually come up with solutions for individuals through this platform. That again has to be done on one-on-one. um, so on that note, thank you again for being here. Next week, if there is any suggestions from you all, please reach out to me. I would be very happy to bring in that conversation next week. And we will, as always, very very informative session. The takeaway from the series has just been so huge. I definitely hope that a lot of viewers actually get some breakthrough out of these conversations, and it gives them some hope, some ray of light, to move forward in their own relationships in a positive way. So till Thursday, this is Jess Sonal signing off. Thank you again for all your support. Thank you, Vimal. I'll see you soon. This is Jess Sonal signing off. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.